What's up, everybody? Welcome to CheckpointAFK. This is sort of our lifestyle podcast from the CheckpointXP crew. I am Norris Howard, along here with the rest of the crew, Chad Callahan, Robbie Landis, and Callie Sloan. Now, I know you're wondering, and you're not used to the fact that I am the one here talking right out of the gate. So we got some stuff that we got to address right now off the bat. And that is, unfortunately, Nate Bender is no longer part of the Checkpoint XP team. It was a decision that it just happened. It was a decision that was made
above our heads.
And it came down, and obviously we're absolutely gutted by the decision, but we have to push forward and make a show. And so we've all talked to Nate. Nate's doing fine. He wanted me to let you guys know he's doing fine. Say hi to him, I guess, on social media. You know where he is. But
it does need to be said from all of us, at least me, Robbie, and Norris. None of us are where we are today without Nate. Not even close.
Absolutely.
So the biggest heartfelt thanks for everything goes out to Nate.
Seriously. And without a doubt, he's a guy that, set us up in a position to be able to do this kind of stuff, set us up with the know-how to be able to take part in any of it. And so we definitely want to give thanks to Nate. And unfortunately, that's how things roll sometimes, and it's a crazy time right now, so we definitely wanted to take the time out to let you guys, the listeners and viewers, know, and we wanted to be as transparent as possible. We didn't want there to be a lot of questions and stuff out there, so unfortunately, Nate is no longer with the team. There's a possibility you may see him again, but as of right now, this is the crew. So we're gonna just give that a moment to breathe. Usually we'll read reviews and all that stuff, but I want to let that sort of get a little bit of room, and we're gonna come right back where we're gonna talk about the PS5 and the rumors that it may cost a little bit less than we expected. So stick around. We're going to have more of a conversation and discussion on that coming up on Checkpoint AFK.
Let's go, boys!
We have our Apex champions.
I think we clutched.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Well, we have an unprecedented outbreak.
Thousands of us walking the earth.
We might die at any moment.
Because we're under attack.
In which case, we must act fast.
Doctors are trying their best.
Working long hours and
always sacrificing
their health to protect you.
Well, I'd very much like to thank them.
Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Wait a minute.
What's the prognosis?
It's still changing.
So we have a novel virus and no vaccine at this time.
What should we do?
We gotta get everybody else back into the houses. We gotta keep them there.
In other words,
this is our lockdown, right? What that means is
stay in your homes, make no attempt to reach loved ones,
and take a long nap.
You can count me out.
You can count me out too.
Some people are immune to good advice.
You know what I mean? Those idiots.
I just need to make sure you fully understand.
Let's recap.
I'm begging you.
Stay inside.
Wash your hands.
And make sure you've got 10 feet of personal space around you.
Stay away from me. Stay away from me.
I didn't hear you wash your hands.
So think on this, lads.
When you're home watching TV,
think about the
medical stuff.
Working for you. So I'm asking you.
Stay home.
I'm in isolation.
Just stop the virus.
All right, I'll do it.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
You stay classy, planet Earth.
Welcome back to Checkpoint AFK. Your host Norris Howard here, along with Robbie Landis, Callie Sloan, and Chad Callahan. And we wanted to talk today a little bit about the PS5. There's some price rumors that have been floating around on how much this thing will actually cost. We've gotten a lot more information on the Xbox Series X, Triple X, box, and we've got a lot more information about that. But Callie, let us know what these rumors are and how much this thing may end up costing.
Yeah, so the big rumors that started to float around this week, and this came via a retailer in Canada who had it leaked the price. They had it up for $600 Canadian, which would be about $400 US, and since then sites like Comic Book and Tom's Hardware and a few others have all been picking up on it. A lot of the major game publishers have yet to start reporting on it, and believe us, we're not trying to put this out as gospel. We're not trying to put this out as solid fact. It's just a really interesting talking point at a time where COVID-19 has led to us not having a ton of interesting talking points. So we thought it might be interesting to kind of break down if these rumors are true.
Because up to this point, all of the the analysts and the predictions were that based on the stuff that's going into it, that if they want to turn any sort of profit, they're looking at least like $550 for it.
Right, and the other thing that we'd heard coming out of it was that Sony was looking at it as being willing to take a hit or a loss on the console price in order to maintain the dominance in the market and
to push units. Yeah,
exactly, to push units. And because at the end of the day, no company ever makes their money on the console. You make it on the game sales.
Absolutely, you make it on the game sales, and you make it off all your add-on, your store purchases, subscriptions, stuff like that. And so just to compare, the Xbox Series X has been rumored around to be about $100 more, so around $500. Now the Series
they're thinking it's almost even $550.
Yeah, maybe $550, because there'll probably be a pro version of that as well. Again, that is not confirmed. But the thing about the Xbox Series X is, as it stands right now, it is the most powerful machine that will hit the market. There's no doubt about that. But
it's got so many teraflops.
Two whole more teraflops.
Whole ass teraflops. But the thing that I think consumers are not going to care about is, first of all, what the hell is a teraflop? Nobody cares. And the second thing is what are the games? What sort of support is, the Xbox Series X going to have? Because that has been the thing that has put PS4 over the top, is that it came out of the launch $100 cheaper because it didn't include the stupid Kinect like the Xbox One did. And then on top of that, you also had a larger and more prolific game library. Sony is positioning themselves to do the same thing again in this gen and have a stronger library and have their console come out at least $100 cheaper. What does Microsoft do in this case? Because if this happens again, just get out.
Microsoft, first of all, I don't think Microsoft is making the smartest choices. I think that this will be the first generation where they do actually start to have some, to an extent, a comparable library. Over the past few years, they've been picking up more and more of these independent studios and adding them to the Microsoft studios. But I think where they then cut the legs out from underneath themselves, even in a case where they do have just as many games as Sony does, is that they aren't just, they're not console specific, right? If you buy something, whether it's on the Xbox or it's on the PC, you get it on both anyway. So even myself, who owns a PlayStation and will have a PS5, if Microsoft comes out with a great game, I still don't have to buy a Series X because I have a PC.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing and a huge detriment. And so I wanted to pull up, because you brought up a good point about the Xbox sort of indie studios that they went out and bought, right? So we're talking about 343 Industries, Ninja Theory, Obsidian, Rare. They got a lot of these smaller studios that are really great at making some good games, but I don't see console movers outside of Halo. I don't see anything that makes somebody go and buy a Series X over a PS4 when a PS4 or PS5 when a PS5 is $100 cheaper. Like indie games are cool.
Even
and they're
even
great
before the
niches.
$100 cheaper, I still don't see it happening.
Well, yeah, and that's my point. And so, we had the talk with the Sony technicians that was supposed to be their GDC talk. That was a bunch of nerd stuff that a lot of people didn't understand and were strangely soothed by.
I got to tell you, as someone who's spending their career in gaming right now, I didn't understand the half of that. I went to school for game design, and I don't understand the half of that.
Probably a good thing you dropped out.
Probably for the best.
Man, listen, I don't even think people with game design degrees would have understood, that it was very hardware based, that conversation, and it was about the system architecture itself. And while it was informative, it didn't necessarily move the needle, I think, for a lot of people, because they just want to know what the hell they could play on it.
Right. You can tell the marketing department didn't write that one.
Exactly. And so even with all that, and we know that the development of the PS5 is very similar to the Xbox Series X, but it's nowhere near as sort of in depth as Sony went to explain the system architecture. But even after all that, and after the fact that nobody understood what the hell Sony was talking about, nobody really knows how powerful this system is or the Xbox Series X really is. After all that, it comes down to the games, and Sony has announced all of maybe one, because it's a multi-platform game. Was it Godfall or something like that? They've announced like one game, and then they've also said, oh yeah, there's a possibility that it's $100 cheaper.
Well, and that's
by the way, that's the retailers, excuse me.
Right, but that's the thing though. Like, if you're a Microsoft executive right now, obviously, maybe you have a little bit more insight on what the PS5 is going to cost than, say, your average person. But if those rumors start coming out and you're like, oh my God, there's no way, it can't be $400. There's no way they're keeping it at that price point. But you got to be feeling like in your heart somewhere, like you got to be a little nervous, don't you? Like, because if this happens again, if they take you out the same way again, like that's
fool
brutal.
Me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, kind of thing.
Absolutely, because dude, we talk about back when the last year that E3 actually mattered, when the PS4 and the Xbox One were both announced at the same conference.
God, it's been a while. And
you had Microsoft go out there and talk about the Kinect, and it was always on, and all this other stuff. Wasn't the Xbox One the one about like you couldn't share your games or something like that?
Yeah, they had the whole.
No, it was the PS4 is like, oh, you could. It was a rumor you couldn't share your games because you wouldn't be able to take a disc and give it to somebody else and they could play the game. All of this was huge, big news. Xbox comes out, does their conference. Everybody's like, okay, that kind of went.
It went all right, yeah.
It went all right. And then Sony comes out and says, oh yeah, we got everything that they got. You can share your games. And by the way, it's $100 cheaper.
Sony strutted out on stage with no pants on and did the helicopter dance for the better part of 30 minutes. Like,
well, you gotta think the one thing that they're taking consideration is user experience. And the one thing that I complain about the PS4 the most is that no matter how many games, like we have a million games because like the free games on the PlayStation Plus happen all the time, things like that. And it's constantly this battle of the undownload this to re-download that, and oh, I want to play that party game that we don't play very often, but I don't have enough room. Let me do that. They've kind of I mean, I don't know to what degree, but they've kind of pretty much discovered a way to kind of fix that to a degree on the PlayStation 5, where you can kind of pick and choose what part of the game you want. For example,
the partition downloading.
Yeah, I just downloaded the whole damn Modern Warfare, even though it's free to play Warzone. But on the PlayStation 5, I assume, granted, this might be up to the game developer, I assume that I'll only have to download the Warzone portion instead of the entire 100 gigs that my computer now has on it.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing that I think they're a little bit, forward thinking on compared to Xbox.
I mean, not just that, but having the PS4 chipset built into the PS5 chipset for backwards compatibility purposes. The solid state hard drive really can't be overstated enough. Like, think about, we all work with solid state hard drives because working without one in our line of work is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So finally for PS5 to be catching up, for consoles to be catching up to that idea, and for the hardware to be swappable is unbelievable to me.
And they leaned on to that.
Yeah.
Like not just that, because hardware in consoles since the PS3 I think has been swappable hard drives. You've been able to do it, but it's been something that they've never actually gone out and said, like, if you want to swap.
Yeah, because didn't it used to get rid of your warranty if you opened it at all?
It did. And now they're saying not only is it swappable, but we've built the architecture for hard drives that are not even on market yet. Like, that was another thing that they said, that Sony said during his TED talk, basically, was that we're building this machine for hardware and peripherals that don't even exist at market yet. There's nothing Microsoft said even close to anything like that with any of their information that they put out. And what that tells me is that Sony is thinking about this machine, thinking about this console as probably their last console. Like, I think this is the last time we see sort of a big old black box on your entertainment center that sits there and you put games into it.
Well, I don't know how much I can invest in that, but they are for sure definitely going in the opposite direction to what Microsoft is, which is coming out with, whether it's a Pro or a Lite version, coming out with a new console every 2 years. It's something that they want you to upgrade as often as you're upgrading your phones. And I think that Sony recognizes, well, Microsoft probably looks at it as, we're giving you lots of different options. Sony's like, people don't want to buy that many consoles, right? They want to plop down, the big chunk of cash they do for the original one. And then they want to hold on to that for the generation. And they just want to worry about games. So I think that Sony is very smart here, investing in the fact that, it's going to be services, it's going to be games, and it's maybe going to be like peripherals that people want to buy. Yeah. It's not the big, heavy hardware.
I think we're likely to see that the PS5 can be updated in some fashion without having to buy a whole new console. I think that's the only...
So it's a PC at that point.
Well, but if you're buying into the theory that, and again, it's all rumor, but that Sony is willing to take a loss on the system to have marketplace dominance, they're not going to take that loss on then the PS5 Pro, or they're not going to take that loss every few years. They're going to want the one-time loss to own a generation.
Yeah, and although this makes me laugh because the idea of, remember when the PS4 3 came around and we're like, no more memory cards? Holy crap. And now we're kind of back to that, where it was just bigger, more chunkier memory cards that were sliding in and out of the same thing. That's probably where they're going to make their money back, because people like me who are too lazy to undownload or re-download things, I would gladly go get the PlayStation 5 official one that I know isn't
first party,
not the Mad Catz version that deleted all my fucking shit, but the PS1. All right, I don't want that anymore. I've learned my lesson. I'm gonna get the exact PS5 party one.
You went from having a bookshelf of CD cases to going digital, and now you're gonna have a bookshelf of hard drives that have like a little piece of masking tape on the side that says Red Dead Redemption 3 on it.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
great.
Okay with that.
Awesome.
I'm alright with that to a degree.
But my point is, and what I think is really sort of important about this whole thing, is that I think you guys are absolutely right, is that this is going to be a malleable, almost not open source, but a very swappable and customizable system. And when you do stuff like that, it's part of why PC has been so dominant for so long, because I can have my laptop, my gaming laptop, upgrade the RAM, or have my desktop and upgrade the graphics card, upgrade the RAM, and I'm using technically the same box for like a decade.
Yeah.
And I think consoles have never quite latched on to that idea. And Robbie, you're absolutely right. People don't want to go out and buy another $300 box, even if I could go to GameStop, which you can't anymore. But even if I could go to GameStop and swap out my old box and then get a new one, and nobody wants to go through that. Not when I can go to Micro Center and pick up a new hard drive or pick up a new graphics card, and it's almost like I have a whole new system.
Do you realize that the collector's editions of the PS5 generation are going to come with their own hard drive with the game already installed on it? Like,
yeah, clever.
That it is, but
if you think of this, we should have seen this coming the minute that microtransactions became a thing. Because instead of paying $400 or $500 for another console, you're essentially going to probably inevitably pay that much money to get all the components to create the new version of the PS6. That let's pretend that's what will happen after that.
Maybe
the same box. You're just putting all the new shit in it, but you don't have to do it all at once.
But here's the thing: is that when the fact that Sony is thinking very carefully about their system architecture and how they're building their consoles, right? When you build your stuff in a way that you do, like people can have a PS5 and still be playing majority PS4 games. Or people can upgrade, like you said, sort of in a marginalized way. But you won't necessarily have to buy a whole new $400 box to get to that level. If Sony comes out with the PS6 or the PS6 chipset or whatever, and they just say, hey, here's a thing that you put in your PS5 that will make it stronger and can play all the new games. Oh, and by the way, it's $150.
And it's called the expansion pack. Please don't sell us Nintendo.
Straight up.
Yeah,
it gives you 2 extra teraflops.
There
you go.
We're going
Sweet
back
and
to
full.
cartridges. This is effectively, we're going back to cartridges this generation. It's just going to be for hard drives.
As long as I don't have to blow on
Before
it.
shall be again. Okay. But I think all of these are really good ideas. But once again, these are ideas all coming out of one camp. And I think that's the problem. And I think when PS5, if these rumors are true, that it's $100 cheaper than what they're talking about for Xbox, and all of the stuff that they say with the system architecture is true, and all the stuff that they're talking about with third-party developers is true, none of the good news is coming out of Microsoft. It's the immortal battle of choosing between being first and being right. And I think Sony is erring on the side of being right. Doing it right and doing it in a way that's going to be fair to consumers and also being fair to gamers instead of just trying to be first and the most powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. It's kind of the same concept as Apple versus Android. Android's technically a stronger platform. They're always a little bit ahead of the curve, but Apple always spends a little bit more time on that user thing, and that's why they tend to win out. And they're always the first to get that app. They're always the first to do this. That's exactly what PlayStation's doing. Xbox is stronger. It's technically stronger with all the stats. But do we need it to be? Not necessarily. Well, I don't see the difference. I probably won't even notice the difference.
That's the thing, really. It's like we joke and laugh about like the phrase teraflops. It's become a meme at this point. But I mean, to an extent, it is a measurement of power. But the question isn't which one has more. The question should be, what is the tangible difference between 6 and 8 or 11 and 13? It's like at some point I've got 64 gigs of RAM. Okay, well I could have a terabyte of RAM, but at some point, does it matter? Like once you're over 64 gigs, who cares? Well,
how many games and developers are actually using it to the potential? When I last rebuilt my PC, I think that DDR4 had just came out, but everywhere that I read was like, don't get it. It's, so much more expensive, but nothing that you're going to be playing right now
no benefit,
actually uses it.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's what's going to happen. And that's what's going to happen with the Series X. Go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
I just need the proof then. Like if you're going to tout that this is so much stronger, I need a side-by-side comparison of like the same game from PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X playing, and then you got to show me the difference that those 2 teraflops or whatever other shit it had made.
Yeah, you need to show me a game where it makes a difference, because I have no doubt that it is technically more powerful. But if I get the same experience, then who cares?
Right, and if it's like I think there's certain games that it might compare to. Like obviously a game like Halo, I feel like relies heavily on graphics. So that makes sense to me, but that's not a game that's going to be on the PlayStation 4. But so it's like I don't care.
even the most intense games like let's take Cyberpunk, right? Because that's going to be probably one of the most beautiful games ever designed. True. We're at the point now where graphics are so good, I don't need them to even be any better.
That's
right?
True.
Whether I'm playing Cyberpunk on the PC, the PS4. Or the Xbox, it's gonna look gorgeous on all of them. And if it comes down to, hey, the pixels are a little bit sharper here for an extra $150, $200, and less games overall, I'm not dropping that money.
True, and a lot of that comes down to the TV that you're using.
Well, you see,
that might as well, yeah.
Segue into my very next point is that I still have a launch PS4, like launch PS4.
Same.
Still works
Same.
perfectly fine, no issues. And people are like, "Oh, you didn't go get the Pro? Why? 4K does not increase my experience."
Yeah, I don't
by
have a
that
4K
much.
TV.
And even if I did, it doesn't increase my experience by that much. So when we're talking about these teraflops and graphical fidelity, that is no longer a rubric that I think that gamers are intrigued by anymore. I think they want to know what's, the games, the features, the ability to be able to partition their games, different download models. Like that's what people, backwards compatibility. That's another big one that I think gamers are more interested in than graphical fidelity, because some of the best video games that have come out have not been the most graphically intensive. We all played Celeste a couple years ago, one of the best games I played in the past 5 years. Teraflops would do nothing for that game. What do I need 8 teraflops to play Celeste or something like that for? So you don't necessarily need this graphical fidelity. You continue to build a powerful machine, but you also take care of the user experience like Chad was talking about. And I think you'll have a strong console and they'll sell well. Point blank, period.
And I think that people are going to make the argument that like most... And this is about consoles. I think that I'm going to throw that out there, and this is where the argument's going to come from. Like, oh, well, the PC is going to run it better. Yes, always going to be the case. Like, it's never not going to be the case. I mean, until like, I don't know, maybe in some dystopian future that might not be the case. I don't know.
Well, it's only not the case when a game is poorly optimized for PC. Like,
right. So I want to just throw that out there. We're talking about the user experience from a console standpoint. Because I can already in my head hear all the people just bitching about like, well, it's gonna be better on the PC. Like, why bother with a console?
Better on PC. But listen, you're absolutely right. Again, we're talking about the PS5 price rumors and sort of the PS5 in general, and rumors from retailers usually have turned out to have some nugget of truth within them because they get MSRPs and stuff like that. So I'm treating this with a grain of salt, but also this is a very positive sign for Sony moving forward in the future if this is indeed true. But we are going to take a quick break and then we're going to come right back, because as we're recording this, Twitch is going nuts because Valorant, Riot's new game, is getting ready to have some drops involved from all their streamers. So we're going to very briefly talk a little bit about Valorant and then we'll be right back.
Are changing. So to celebrate the swing into spring, we would like to ask gamers who their favorite green-themed video game character is and why. Come with me.
My favorite green-themed video game character is Yoshi from the Mario World, and he's just really cute and he's fun to play, and I like the Yoshi World games.
So my favorite green-themed video game character of all video games would probably be Link from the Zelda franchise, specifically in Twilight Princess. Growing up and playing the Zelda franchise, specifically Twilight, it had a really gritty, really raw, really dark theme to it, and I fell in love with that aspect of playing a role-playing game such as Zelda.
So my favorite green character is Yoshi from Mario Kart Double Dash. I used to play that game a lot when I was little, and my favorite map in the video game is Yoshi Island. So it's just all Yoshi, he's my favorite.
So my favorite green character is the little pea shooter from Plants vs. Zombies. So not only are these little guys adorable, but they're deadly. They can cleanly knock the heads off zombies. They protect your lawn from the zombies that want to eat your brains. They come in a variety, and they're pretty cool, man. Shout outs.
Lily from Animal Crossing.
And why?
Because she's really cute and she helps me manage my pocket camp, and she's adorable.
So my favorite green themed character is Ivern from League of Legends, and despite his peculiar personality and lore, he plays a very supportive role in the game, and it's probably one of my most favorite things to do in the game is help and protect others.
So it would be Piccolo from Dragon Ball.
That would be my favorite green-themed character. I play Dragon Ball FighterZ, love that game. He's not the strongest fighter in the game, but he's got some really cool moves. I like having him on my team, my trio. I think he's like also one of my favorite characters because he's got one of the best voice actors in English dub anime that I've ever heard. He also voices Vegeta, love him, and All Might, so many cool characters he's done. So yeah, that's my favorite green-themed character.
Well, that's it for me this week. Thanks to the students at UNLV for sharing your favorite green-themed video game characters. On behalf of CheckpointXP on campus, stay green and have a great spring.
Welcome back to Checkpoint AFK. Your podcast about stuff, video game stuff. We're here talking a little bit about the PS5 previously, and now we're going to talk a little bit about Valorant. If you are unfamiliar with Valorant, it is Riot Games' new game, one of the few new games that they announced that they would be developing. This is sort of a CSGO style game that they announced. And as we are recording this podcast, Twitch is going nuts because there will be closed beta keys dropping if you are watching the streamers. So, guys, how are you feeling about Valorant? I've seen a little bit of the game in motion now from various streamers. I know Weirdbeard, even though he's not on the show right now, is very excited. Callie, you're the next closest CSGO person. Have you seen a little bit of Valorant?
Yep.
What do you think of it so far?
All right, so I mean, I'll just put this out there to start with. We did get our reach out from Riot, and they've said, hey, send us information if you want in on the Valorant beta. So we're all sitting here with fingers crossed that they'll get back to us very shortly.
Everyone, cross your fingers for us, please.
So we're hoping to hear back from them. I'm pretty geeked. I like Counter-Strike a great deal. It's not a game that I expected to like. Like, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, are you going to get into CSGO? I'd have probably said no. But at this point, I'm watching it basically whenever it's competing. I'm trying to play as much as possible because it is a game that is objectively terrible and no one should ever play it.
All right, here's the thing about Counter-Strike.
When it's good, it's great.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, Counter-Strike is that game. Yeah, it's old. It's kind of got a stigma to it because of the fans, I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, it's a game that is rather easy to follow as far as from a competitive standpoint, and I think that's why
you're just doing the same thing for 60 seconds 60 times in a row.
Well, yeah, okay, well, I mean, someone's clearly got some gripes about it, but I think the thing is like
it's boring to watch.
I mean, at first I thought the same thing, and I worked briefly with the team, who is majorly into CSGO, and I didn't get it at first, but once you start watching it and you start thinking about the strategies behind it, it gets a lot more interesting, and that's the thing that I'm excited about in this game, because it looks like we're doing a lot more of that. It's taking a little bit of Overwatch strategy and putting it into CSGO, which I think is the biggest part of this. That's the most exciting part that I'm for me.
Yeah, see, for me, that was the one thing that kept me away from CSGO. Was, first of all, the concept that you have to stop to shoot, which I think is stupid. And you can't aim down sights, double stupid. But I played Counter-Strike a lot back in the day when it first came out, back at internet cafes, back when that was a thing in America.
What a dated phrase.
Back when, what's that? Social distancing ruined all that. I don't know.
I know, but yeah, back when that was a thing, I was playing a lot of Counter-Strike, so I get it. I get the appeal. I understand why people are very, very into it. But after a while, it got very stale. And Robbie, you're right. I don't want to watch the same thing over and over again for 60 minutes as they, essentially throw a smoke grenade and shoot somebody in the head. Now, with this, I'm really excited because these abilities are adding a really weird layer to a game that already was in anachronism, right? So it's almost like CSGO, or it's almost like Valorant is doing to CSGO what like 2D fighters have been for years. A 2D fighter is an anachronism. Like, it is old. It is an old idea that people keep building on and building on. Nobody built on the tactical shooter after Counter-Strike came out. They really didn't. I mean, you had Team Fortress, which
it was still kind of fun and goofy.
It was fun, but it was different, and it was way faster and, you know, more cartoony.
I think Rainbow Six Siege is like the only game that's kind of taken that up.
Yeah, but even still, Rainbow Six Siege, the play style is so different. I can't even remotely compare it.
Well, because Rainbow Six, as a game, was more about everything up until you actually got to go shoot people.
The environment, less about the enemy.
Yeah, and so, the environment itself is a force, is an enemy in Rainbow Six. And so you had nobody building upon this tactical shooter genre really until now. And it's just interesting to see somebody else's take on a very, very old genre of game that needed an update.
Yeah. This is my closest comparison is, you know, Fortnite v PUBG, like that. We always kind of make that comparison. Like it's really taking that game, changing it a little bit, and then that's what's going to take off. And I honestly think that's exactly what's going to happen with Valorant. A lot of people are saying no, that CS:GO people are going to stay true to CS:GO, but I'm waiting. I have a feeling.
Just some quick numbers as reported on Twitter here by Jacob Wolf, and Slasher first reported this, unfortunately, but he says he finds it pretty fascinating. The Play Valorant influencer count as of this tweet, 941,000 viewers, and Riot didn't pay a cent for people to participate in last week's boot camp. Whereas if you want to go as far back as like Play Apex, for example, Ninja alone, they paid $1 million for him to play it.
See,
really?
See,
that's
again,
nuts.
but it's because Riot, first of all, Riot has the cultural cachet to be able to do it because of League of Legends. Everybody knows Riot. Riot put out a good product. They continue to support it and support it well. And so they have a lot of consumer trust. EA has no consumer trust. Yeah. And that is why they had to go out and pay people. So Riot, no, it's why they had to go pay people.
Well,
EA, no. Apex, if you'd have told me that Apex would have came out without that big influencer push that they did, you think that Apex would be anywhere right now?
No. Absolutely. Well, here's two things. I think what Riot did marketing wise compared to what Apex did marketing wise was vastly different. And I don't know if I'm gonna, if it was the influencers or if this marketing track, I don't know which one, because let's think of it. Riot's been touting that they were gonna put out games, and then they slowly, like, project was A, and then then they turned it into like, oh, it's Valorant, and then they slowly releasing. Apex was just like, one day there was an Apex, next day there was an Apex, and you could download it. So it's like, and which was clever because it did get a lot of people to download.
It was the Sega Saturn model of release where they just say, hey, here's a new console, go buy it, it's available today.
Well, the thing that's nice about it, Apex, at least it was free. You know what I mean? It made sense. Is Valorant?
Well, Valorant's free.
Yeah. Is it going to be free?
Yeah. Free to play.
So, I mean, I don't know. These are just two. I think it's just two. We're seeing two different marketing strategies, and Apex worked for a while. I just don't. I mean, and obviously it just didn't have traction.
So wait. Hold on, Chad. Two different marketing strategies. Are you saying that if Riot didn't have all of these other games lined up, if it was just Valorant, you don't think it'd be popping off like it is?
No. I think it's the way that they said, oh, we have Project A. There's something in, and everyone's like, ooh, what the hell is Project A?
Riot Games.
I don't think so, because at the same time, the people who know Riot Games are League of Legends players, not CS:GO or Overwatch play. Maybe some Overwatch because there's a little crossover. But I'm just saying, shooter people are not interested in League of Legends most of the time.
But Chad,
I just don't think they have the same thing.
Esports people.
But I don't think the people watching on Twitch are all esports people. I think there's a lot of them.
Legends. I hate Counter-Strike, but I want to give Valorant a go. Why? Because Riot is a company that, despite whether or not I consume their stuff, I know has a proven track record.
I want to compare this to someone who isn't in the space. All right, like that's my difference. I want to go to someone like who is the average Twitch viewer.
Okay, but even that, if you're talking about somebody who wants to go play a CSGO style game, those are CSGO people. And CSGO people know esports. They've been an esport just as long as anybody else.
I mean,
so they know the
I don't know.
esports.
No.
So they know the esports landscape. If you're thinking that people who are playing Valorant don't know who Riot Games is, Chad, come on.
It doesn't even come down to that. It doesn't even come down to that, Chad. It comes down to influencers, right? The average Twitch person doesn't need to know what Riot is or even what League of Legends is. Ninja's playing it. Shroud is playing it.
That's my point.
Influencers are playing it, and they're playing it without being paid. Why? Because it's Riot.
Because those influencers.
You got me there. That
yes,
one part
because
you got
those influencers trust Riot, and that's my point. And is what I'm trying to say. It's not necessarily about the average person. It's about the fact that Shroud and Choco Taco and Tim the Tat Man and all these other people can get a product from Riot Games and know that it has a certain level of support, and know that, hey, this would be something that is gonna have some legs and they're gonna be able to sustain it as a community. That was something that Apex didn't necessarily have coming out of the gate. You had a bunch of people playing it, but then you had, bugs that came out that didn't really get fixed on time. You had characters who had hitboxes that shouldn't have existed that didn't get fixed for months. You had esports scene that just didn't happen up until recently, and now
don't
you
they
got
still have no solo queue?
they have
No,
solo.
they-
now.
Okay.
Oh,
Apex has solo.
Oh wait, I saw a joke that like it was what
It was
game
late.
Was
It was super late, but they had it for a while.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, at the end of the day,
point-
Riot is known for coming into a space a little bit later and doing a game a lot a bit better. Like, at the end of the day, League of Legends was not a new concept. Like, Dota and Defense of the Ancients
Dota
and
was
Warcraft
first.
3 had been around for a while. Like, those already existed. Riot came in with League of Legends and in many eyes did it better. Some would argue vehemently that it's not better, but most would say it is. Then you've got...
The money would say that it's better.
Yeah, then you got Legends of Runeterra,
Money-wise, yeah.
which, I mean, clearly taking inspiration from Hearthstone and a little bit from Magic, but putting out a very competent, very strong game. You've got Teamfight Tactics capitalizing off the auto battler success, very competent, very successful. So now Riot earns that right to say, okay, cool, we're going to turn our eyes towards a tactical shooter, and everyone just kind of has to go, all right, let's see what you got. Like, no one can just immediately, no one's allowed to immediately just be like, no.
Well,
pass.
and to what Norris said earlier, the fact that nobody else since Counter-Strike has tried to do anything, like, yeah, maybe even if it wasn't Riot, I still think this would draw eyes because it's finally
been so
someone
long.
else who's trying something different with it. Yeah.
And it's not a battle royale.
Well, yeah, that's
battle royale.
I think that's really honestly now that we say that out loud, I truly think that is why. I mean, battle royales for the past couple of years have been like the strongest contender on Twitch and in esports, but
because everyone was trying to replicate Fortnite. If this
I'm
would have
glad
been a
they're going
battle
back.
royale, I think in that case people still would have been excited because it's Riot, but it probably wouldn't have been as fervent because people are like, another battle royale.
Exactly.
But when it comes to tactical shooters, there's Counter-Strike and then Rainbow Six, I guess.
Yeah, but even still, like we said before, Rainbow Six, such a drastically different game. You can't. I mean, they're a tactical shooter, but not the same game. Not like it's apples and oranges with that one. Like if someone tried to come out and made if the next Riot game is a Rainbow Six copy, I am so old. I'm just gonna say that right now. And Riot, if you're watching, and I'm hoping this is true, I am in.
Well, their next games are a single player turn-based RPG.
Yep.
Like what?
They're
And
basically
a fighting
going
game.
after, I feel like they're going after, except maybe the fighting game aspect there. I feel like they're going after games and genres that are a little underserved in the past decade.
Smart.
I would say
Smart.
fighting games. I'm gonna be honest. I would say fighting games are underserved by a company like Riot, by like big, huge company like that.
Yeah, because it's
but there are still competent fighting games out there that
absolutely.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you had Norris, this is actually a question for you. It says we're on the topic of fighting games and developers. If there was a developer to say that we plan to have an esports scene for this fighting game, whatever it is, like doesn't really matter in the game. But we're going to develop a game specifically for esports. What developer would you want to have it? Create? Riot?
Probably Riot, yeah.
Oh, if it wasn't Riot, can you have a runner-up?
I would have Riot, and I would have the game actually built and developed by Arc Systems.
Okay. All right.
That's how I would do it.
Curious.
But Riot would be publishing it and handling the esports game.
I'm shocked that they haven't had a League of Legends fighter kind of thing like that. That's one of the things I expected. Is there? Okay.
It's in development, yeah.
Is that one of them?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Never mind.
There's also an anime. When's that anime going to get here? I need that in my life.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's gonna happen. Well, the Arcane, the cartoon is coming up.
Yeah.
But to your point, Chad, is that people know that this is coming out to be an esport. There's no qualms about
obvious.
that. This is gonna be an esport. It's gonna have a community. Counter-Strike, for as strong as it is, if this game is competent, it doesn't even have to be better. If this game is competent, okay, it will have a community in the same way that people say, oh, TFT, it's not better than auto chess. It's just auto chess. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to play TFT. Dude, look at where TFT is and look at where auto chess is on the viewer count. Okay. Riot has the ability, because they have the cultural cachet in esports, to be able to dominate just about any space that they go into. I think, personally, fighting games will be the hardest for them to get into, but if they make it a free-to-play game and offer $1 million for esports tournament,
I was gonna say,
everybody's about to be playing.
I think the smartest thing Riot does when they're developing games is that they think of the esport first. They think of how it could potentially be bigger than just the game. I mean, maybe not necessarily with League of Legends, but like with the rest of it. I think they're moving forward. They're thinking this could be an esport, not just game. Maybe not the RPG.
But I think that's been the detriment of a lot of games.
Yes.
And I think that's been what caused the Apex to trip up and what caused PUBG to not be as big as it could have been in a lot, because they put out the game and they say, okay, esports.
People love this. Let's make it an esport.
But nobody knew how to fucking do it.
Right. I think it's to your detriment when you don't have an established method of running esports. Like, listen, Overwatch had Blizzard had experience with TESPA, they had experience with running StarCraft, they had experience with running a whole bunch of other esports. So when they said, here's our new game, it's going to be our next esport, they know what they're talking about. Same thing with like Teamfight Tactics and Legends of Runeterra. You can make that switch really quick. But when someone like EA comes along, and I mean, don't get me wrong, they've done FIFA and Madden for sure. But what's the studio that made they made Titanfall, they made Apex Legends?
Respawn,
thank you. When they come along and say, here's our game, it's an esport, we all go, oh, all right, sure,
and
maybe.
Guess what? It's not an esport right now.
No, it's not.
It's like, and don't get me wrong, the virus has thrown a lot of stuff out of whack. I was actually very excited for Apex's esports scene to pop off, but it's just not going to happen right now because you can't run those events.
Well, and hey, I mean, listen, we've got the Shutdown Showdown going on right now. I think we're advertising in between these things. There's there's tons of room for Apex to be an esport. That tournament is awesome.
Obviously,
clearly it can work.
I enjoy watching.
Yeah, so clearly it can work.
But my point is like the EA, what they set out for Apex as a scene earlier this year was very exciting.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be able to have a chance to do that now because of the virus, and that's going to hurt that game. Flat out.
It'll probably hurt it. I think if it rebounds, I think the one thing that might be nice about this is that they have a little bit more time to flesh things out, and if they use this time wisely, it could rebound. It's still free to play. It's still fairly popular game. It's still like top, watch on
even with Warzone out.
I don't think the problem at Call of Duty, and they don't do themselves any favors with this, is that they keep switching the games all the time. Like, it's a new game, everything, and I think that's a little bit of a detriment to Call of Duty, in my opinion. I might be wrong. I love Call of Duty to death, so it's just my 2 cents, and you could disagree or agree or whatever. But I think that's the difference between Apex Legends and like Call of Duty, where they just keep switching the games. But But yeah, I think if they are smart, they'll try to get people. They'll make it more exciting just to play for fun, and then once the esports scene comes out, then maybe I will watch it because I've had so much fun playing it because I spent more time on it. That's my thought. I don't know.
Well, that's gonna be that for that conversation. I hope everybody gets a beta key.
Fingers crossed.
I want to play this game.
Yeah,
we will play it
so we can all go in and suck together.
Yeah, group
suck.
What, Chad? No.
Okay. Wow. Come on. Call him out for that now. If I'd have said that, you'd have been all over me for praise.
That's a phrasing for sure.
Had to be done.
Group suck with 3 C's.
3 C's. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this week's Checkpoint AFK with Robbie Landis, Callie Sloan, Chad Callahan, and also much love from Weird Beard as well. That's gonna be it. We'll be back here. Well, actually, we don't know if we'll be back here next week because it's a holiday.
True.
So stay tuned to our social medias.
Yeah, we won't be here Friday for sure. At least we might have an episode. No promises though.
Yeah, no promises. It is a holiday, so make sure you guys stick around for that. So stay glued to all of our social medias, which you can follow at CheckpointXP on Twitter and on Facebook, and _Checkpoint_XP on Instagram is where you can find us. One more time, Robbie, Callie, Chad, I'm Norris Howard, and we will talk to you with more Checkpoint AFK. See you guys later.